Oh, hello and welcome. This is one of my 60 conversations for my 60th year on this planet. And I've been reaching out to people who are inspiring me and people who I think it would be really good to share a little bit of their story and what they are up to. Because I just love watching people, how they interpret things when they come across this spiritual understanding of their life and who they are and what that changes for them and what that opens up for possibilities for all of us. So today I have the beautiful Julie Brown with me. So Julie, do you want to tell people just a little bit about you and then let's see where we go?
Goodness, yes. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. We've known each other for a few years
We
and
have.
we've had a few bits of conversations, and they're always amazing. So thank you so much for this invite. It's hugely appreciated, as are you. So I am Julie Brown. I am quite old and I've been around for a long time. And I came across this understanding that we're going to be sharing a little bit about today around about 2014. And when I first came about it, I didn't like it.
I love that.
When I first came about it, I thought it was a cop out for people to get away with bad behavior. I'm going, it's just your thinking when somebody disagreed with something was said.
Mm.
And I just thought, not for me, right? However, so almost I've created programs from it. I've seen the truth of it. I laugh at the humanness of us all, and I am in awe of the unlimited potential of us all.
The divinity of it's is that, isn't it?
100%.
Is the
A hundred
beauty
percent.
of the being human. That's what I love. I love being human. So it's kind of, to me, this isn't about to cancel out being human, but it is when we bring in that divinity, that potential, that what is possible for us. It's gorgeous, isn't it? So
It takes us, for me, it takes us from the tunnel vision, living in things happen to us,
yeah.
potential in restraining and restricting our awesomeness to the, oh, that's happening, that's interesting. What am I going to create from there? And that's the difference. It literally feels like it goes from that to opening up the world and everything else. That's
Mm.
it is for me. I like to be playful with it. Don't like to take things too seriously. I talk pretty fast, so I will try and remember to slow down my talking.
I get very excited and talk fast too, and then I'm like, slow down, slow down, slow down. But I think that's, in one sense, I think that's what's opened up for me, a real playful excitement about life. Just before we press go on here, we were talking about this crazy project of mine to build a house. And I think, if I was taking life too seriously, I'd be really concerned about that. But it's just like, roll the dice, take the next, move the piece the next amount of time, and yeah, hold it very, very lightly. So
Because that's where the energy of creation comes from.
mm,
And like your house isn't built yet, so how can you know how it's going to 100% where you're going to have everything and you just set yourself, like we said, you sit in the energy of it.
yes.
And when we come from the energy, to me, energy is far more powerful than the words.
Mm.
That's just how it feels for me. Like when people are interacting with me now, a lot of them aren't going to be listening to the words that I say. They're going to be gelling and connecting or disconnecting with the energy of me. And the same with you. That's what I think is the power that we've got in this. And this is why we are all connected, because we're all part of this unique energy. And energy can never be destroyed, right? Energy is always there, and it's always transforming, and it's always growing, and it's always becoming more when we play with it and when we see that we can do that with it. And again, you'll see me do that. I talk with my hands. You're going to
Yeah, so
see
do I.
this so much. And
We'll have
it's
a
going
whole conversation like this.
and it's literally going to go from like thinking life's happening to us and there's nothing we can do about it. So using your house as an example, it's like, oh my God, it's raining and I can't get the roof on, for example, right? It's going to be, yeah, but the rain's going to stop and the roof's going to go on. Right? So like we can look at the world's against me because the rain's doing it deliberately just for my roof so I can't get my roof on. And that often can be a mindset that we innocently live from without even seeing it, to, oh, well, it's raining. Actually, we can go do something else instead.
Yeah, I think that is so beautiful, isn't it? Seeing that, and seeing, like, already with how far I've got with this project, I have literally been blown away by what has been possible so far and what shows up. Because I really noticed, like you say, when my mind starts to go, this is never going to happen, and it's everything, it's like the level of consciousness that we live at, everything's painted with the same brush, really, isn't it? It's like the glasses we put on, if they're tinted if they're tinted, everything's against me. You see everything and interpret everything against you, and you miss the opportunities. And very much like with the land, it was kind of, it was like, I know I just had a thing, and it, even to me it seems mad, you know, but I had this, I want to buy it, really does, genuinely. It's like, I want to buy this piece of land. And a couple of times I sort of sat there, I was like, do you really? Are you sure? But it kept coming back. It's like, yeah, I really do. I really do. And then obviously, like, the money just wasn't there. And it was like, okay, let's see what's possible. And that is what I've been seeing in you over the past, you know, since this Women That Matter. I'd love you to tell us a little bit about that, and what you have created around that, and what is continuing, you know, the new stuff. And we did sort of just quickly mention that there's something called the being movement that seems to have happened, and Anchor's Jane. If you don't know who he is, go and Google him and find him. There'll be plenty out there to find. You know, there's something he's doing, a movement he's doing with coaches, and it just feels like we live in such interesting times at the moment, with all of these possibilities coming in. So tell us about the Women That Matter, and a little bit about that.
So the Women Who Matter Facebook group is a free Facebook group, and I've decided it's going to be the biggest free resource for a female empowerment group available anyway. I've decided. That's and I've literally just decided that yesterday.
Oh, see, this is how it works, isn't it? I just decided this land was going to be mine, and okay, it took me 18 months, but I decided the first time I saw it, it was just like, yeah, this land's going to be mine.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
and I've
so
played with the idea of making it a really good group, you know, because there are currently 80 well-being classes, one of which you've absolutely done for us. But the Women Who Matter Summit came about because I had a very good friend since we were about 13 years old, my friend Leslie Wardle, and she was the funniest. She was the brave one, I was the quiet one. She was the most sarcastic person you'd ever meet in life. Driest sense of humor. She had this funny little laugh, and you knew she was up to mischief. And she died unexpectedly last year. We've known each other, let's say, 40 odd years, and 40 years. And she struggled from the age of about 20 with agoraphobia and anxiety, and a lot of problems. And she didn't live a life. She told me that, you know, I'm not saying anything that I haven't got permission to share with her family, and things that I've shared with her, because she was in a lot of groups that I ran. She tried everything. She tried Linton method. She tried psychotherapy. She tried hypnotherapy. She had a number of counselors, and she things improved, things didn't. Things improved, things didn't. She struggled for a lot of years, and the main thing she used to say was, like, Leslie, you've got to do this for you. Oh no, I don't matter. As long as the kids are okay, I'm okay. I don't matter. Doesn't matter about me. And I think, and I was also working with a lot of other women who were coming up with similar type of lines and narratives. And then when Leslie died, I just had this huge, you know, like, this isn't on. We can't be living from this place. We can't have this. Women can't be dying, living a life where they haven't lived it because they don't feel like they matter. And so I created a program, had 10 people join. It was great, yeah, but it wasn't enough. So I had this idea that I'm going to create a summit. Oh, how hard can that be?
It's a very good job. Like building a house, it's probably a good job you don't know before you start.
But you've noticed because you've done them as well, right? So you know how much goes on behind the scenes. I had absolutely no clue, and then I decided
it's a great place to start from, though, I have to say.
Swimming a day for 5 days. So there was 30 women who said yes within a week. All the spots were filled. And when I opened the Facebook group up in the beginning of January for the summit a few weeks later, I had more speakers than people who wanted to attend. There were 24 people waiting to live in the Facebook group, and there were 30 speakers. And I was like, there's not going to be anybody to listen to all these fabulous women. It's not going to work. You get that? You know, like you, just like you said, are you sure you want the stand? And I'm like, what the bloody hell are you doing, idiot? Right? I had all of those thinking coming in, and I was like, nope, we're just going to go continue with this. By the time the summit started 2 weeks later, we had 800 women who joined the group. So there was definitely a need. By the time the week finished, I think we had 1,200 by the time we were finished in that week. And there's now just under 1,600 women in the group. And we've held 3 summits. There are 80 speakers, master classes, all about empowerment. Every person speaking their own unique truth, how they work, what works with them, and how they can listen. You can go and listen to any one of them. Definitely, Deborah's. Another of them, and you're going to get something from it. So this is how the Women Who Matter came about. I'm doing another one in February. So if you're a woman, come and join the group. You won't only see them in there because it's a private group. But that's how and why it came about, and the craziness that I had, and all of the thinking, overthinking, and who the hell are you to be running a summit, and who on earth are you to be doing this, and blah, blah, blah. But I just had this knowing that this is what I had to do, because not on my watch. That was the, like, I'm not having that. If I can do anything to help it, or not on my watch. That's the energy that it was created from. And it's been the energy all of the speakers have brought with them when they've come. It's been lovely.
Yeah, I love that. And I really hear you about like when you were saying about her saying that whole, oh, so long as the kids are all right, I don't matter. And
Yeah.
you can kind of see what that created for her and in her. And like you say, actually, I hear that a lot. And I think it, particularly with women and particularly with moms, we definitely have this way of thinking that actually, and it's almost like we wear this badge of, if we put our children first and put ourselves down, there's something good.
Because we saw our parents doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. We've learned it. We've absolutely. And I can remember being in conversations, like when my children are grown up now, but I remember being in conversations with other moms when my children were small. And even at that time, that was pre, I hadn't come across this understanding or anything, but being really confused by this, getting caught up in it myself. Don't get me wrong, I was a part of this as well, but people sort of talking about worrying about their children, and this one-upmanship on, well, I worry even more about, oh, well, I do this when my children does, oh, well, gosh, and it's like, I don't sleep, well, oh, I don't even go to bed, oh, well, I don't, it's kind of like this
I hear you. Yeah. They're
and
trying to outdo each other's pain.
yeah. And it's kind of, and I remember even then being sort of a little bit, and as I said, I'm not saying, and I didn't do it. And absolutely, I was totally a part of that narrative. And then seeing all sorts of things like that around my children, that making them more and not bothering about me. And then when I came across the principles, really, really seeing that actually I couldn't give my children from a totally empty cup in that way. And one of my hardest moments in my, because I was in a very, very unhealthy relationship. And then when I came out of it and I was sorting myself out and beginning to find a life and get a little bit happier, I had one of my nieces actually really got angry with me because of what had happened to my children and how much they had suffered. And she kind of said to me, you don't deserve this happiness. And I can, the truth, I can see, and I have no animosity or anything. I could see what she was saying, and definitely I had made some very not great choices. I hadn't supported my children in ways, I wish things
You would now.
yeah, exactly. But what I saw is, if I continued along that path and went down, I was still doing that to my children. Whereas if I actually stood up and sorted myself out and turned my life around, then now I know my children sort of say, yeah, we love what you do, we support, and you doing that is really important to, my children are great now, they're doing really well, but it is definitely a part of it is that I led the way in that. And I definitely think, like you say, we need to be changing the narrative around I don't matter. I'm going to push my children forward and do and not take care of me. Because the other thing I see around that is that even though we think our children don't know it, the energy thing that you were talking about, it's like, yeah, how many times, like when I've worked a lot with women who've been in very unhealthy relationships and things like that, and they say, oh, but my children don't know. And I was like, don't kid
Yes,
yourself.
I do. Yes, I do. I was a child in that type of violent relationship, you
Yeah.
know, literally my every weekend I was cleaning the blood up from when my mum self-harmed from being 8 years old, you know. So I've seen that and been on the other side of that coin, and I've been in unhealthy relationships myself, which I'm not surprised considering the upbringing that I had. But the same thing you're saying is so true, that if we don't change the narrative, we continue the cycle.
Yes.
And you know, I've got this cup of coffee here, and if I said, "Here you are, Deb, of course you can have a drink," and yes, of course you can have a drink, Angela, and yes, of course you can have a drink, Jane, and yes, of course you can have a drink, Susan. This cup's going to go down and down and down, and then Deb, by the next time you're thirsty, I've got nothing left to give you. If I'm thirsty, I've got nothing else for myself. But even if I wanted to continue giving to everybody else, when there's nothing to give, there's nothing to give. And so much we hear, even when we're young, right? We are conditioned, more so women than men, but men have their own set of conditioning, which is just as difficult for them to deal with.
Absolutely.
You know, men get the you should speak up for you, be the man, don't cry,
Mm.
etc., etc., etc. And you know, they're praised when they don't do that. Good for you, you mo, chuck it like a man, and you know,
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that. And
Totally.
women get, good girl, you helped your mum. Good girl, you didn't do this. Good girl, you've looked after your sisters. Good girl, you know, it's so we are brought up innocently. We're changing the generational narrative now, but very much have been through the generations been brought up with the same language and the same intentions innocently, that our parents, we always think we do a bit better, but we always still always we always try to do a bit better, but we always still have the core of that until we see it differently, until we learn something else. So for me, your relationship with your children, my relationship with my eldest daughter, my relationship with my youngest daughter are chalk and cheese. There are 21 years difference between them. Of
Mm.
course they're chalk and cheese. I was a girl when I had my daughter, and I was
Yeah.
an old woman when I had my second one. So of course they're going to be different. But you bringing your children up, and you know what? Not getting it right all the time. I know I certainly didn't. Right? I know I made lots of mistakes for my daughter, but we've got a really good friendship and a relationship now. And actually changing, stepping out of those abusive relationships, because I've been in those as well, and just going, you know what? Absolutely not. I'm worth more than that, and this is how I'm living. That actually changes the narrative from them thinking, ah, well, you know, at least I'm not getting that mum had,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
At least I'm not having that. Or, you know, if it's at work and, you know, at least, well, you know, that's just what you do. People have got to put up with that. You've got to suck it up sometimes. To actually go, actually, no,
Yeah. That's,
I can do this.
mm.
I'm gonna be okay because I've got the creative intelligence inside me and the resilience that has actually got me through all these crap times that I've had, right? Even if I haven't seen it at the back, look back, you can always see resilience, and you can always see resilience in the back mirror when you look at your life where you've been.
Absolutely.
And if you thought you had to do it beforehand, you're never going to think you could get through it, but you always do. So whatever you're going through now, know that you're going to get through this.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to, it's not necessarily how you think it is at the moment, as in that's all there is. So get curious. Find someone to help you get curious with. If you're in that place at the moment, if you're just listening up, going, yeah, it's okay for you, but you don't have what I had.
Mm.
I would go for a walk with my ex-partner. We'd come out and go, oh, I could kill you and bury you here, couldn't I? Nobody would ever find the body. Seriously, right? And that was an aspect of a life that I lived at one time. And when I was in that, I was petrified and didn't think, and thought if I tried to leave, everybody else would suffer because of it, because that was the threats that I got. Until the day, put my coat on and walked out and didn't come back.
Mm.
And then my life changed again. And this is it. This again to me is very much like me starting the Women Who Matter and you building this house. You don't always need to know the next steps.
No. And if we do know some of the steps we're going to have to take, we probably wouldn't start in the first place.
But we always get through them. We always, and there's always a next step
Absolutely.
after that.
Yeah. And step by step, it is that thing, isn't it? When you look at the whole thing, it looks really, really huge. But if you just, you know, one step at a time, what do you need to do in this moment? Just do what you need to do in this moment. And I think that is true of all things, isn't it? It's just, you know, however big or small or whatever, it's just like, okay, just do the next thing that you need to be doing now, next thing that needs to be doing now. And yeah, we can get, well, you can do a whole lifetime like that.
We've touched on some pretty heavy things there, right?
Yeah.
But even if you've never had any of those experiences in your life, right? But you're still maybe don't speak up as much, or like you want to create something, but you've got this little nattering around in your head going, oh, don't be silly, who are you to do that? Or it's too much hassle, it's too much work, stay safe where you are, you know where you are now. Even if you want to do something and you've got anything that's holding you back, no, you can do it.
Yeah.
No, you don't need to know all the steps. I've literally just created a year-long program that people have signed up for, and I don't even know half of what I'm going to be giving them. And each one of them knows that.
Yeah. That's the magic though, isn't it?
Okay. And it's the magic in knowing and trusting in yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy to trust yourself. It's not always easy to believe that you've got it, because we always have a what will other people think?
That's another one of those narratives, isn't it? There's quite a few. Now my thing seems to be at the moment, it's like I'm hearing all these things. It's like, oh my gosh, we need to change that narrative. We need to change that. And that is such a huge one that we all have running in some form or another, isn't it? This, and I know definitely a lot of the problems I got into stemmed from what will other people think? Some form of, I need you to like me. So, you know,
Yeah.
if Julie's doing this, she must be right. So I've got to do that same thing. Oh, but I want to do this. Oh, but oh gosh. Oh, and this person will like me if I do this, and Julie will like me. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
and you sit into a million people spilling, having plates all over the place, and then when they all crash down, what do? Blame yourself.
yeah.
What I always say for people who have got that "what will other people think" narrative running, sounds a bit cruel until I explain it a little bit more. And what I'm going to say is, you're not that important, and and you are the most important thing in the universe.
Mm,
You who, as you are unique, amazing, and the most important thing that deserves everything you want in this life. And when you're thinking about, oh, what will Deb say? Like, if I come on this podcast and I say something that Deb doesn't like, what will she think? She might go and talk to such and such. You never believe what Julie said, right? And even if that was the case,
yeah.
I might go and say, you never believe what Julie said, and somebody else will go, did she really? What we're going to have for tea tonight?
Yeah.
And it's as quick as that, because people are always caught up in their own what ifs, their own what would people think, their own day-to-day life. They're not like ever gonna spend as much time and energy on what you're doing as you do, holding yourself back from doing it.
That is so true.
So that's why I always say, you're not that important, as in other people, they're the priority for their world, not you.
Mm.
And so you do what you want, and don't be the priority of somebody else's world. Or don't put yourself in that place, and certainly don't hold yourself back,
No, no.
because this is life to live.
There's so many exciting things to do. I know I had a realization around that, and it was like I was making myself important in places that I was not important, and not making myself important in the places where I was. And that's kind of another twist on that same thing, isn't it? Because we both are, we both are in equal parts. Like you say, we're unique, we're amazing, we're beautiful. There's, you know, there's only one, the divine only shows up in this life in one way as Julie Brown, and in one way as Deborah Simmons, and anyone who's watching this, you know, you're unique, you're amazing, you're beautiful, you have talents and skills and gorgeous things, no matter what. And it is like, and there's a place, a little bit exactly like you say with your women that matter, there's a place to see that and see that glory and that beautifulness. And there's a place to see yeah, we're just like a grain of sand, you know, there's thousands of us and it really doesn't matter. And it's sort of, and when you get it the wrong way around, it hurts.
And you always know when you've got it the wrong way around,
Yeah,
because we've got this perfect biofeedback system.
exactly.
So as soon as you're feeling a bit crap, you know you've got it the wrong way around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's the time to get curious. Instead of thinking, oh, life's happening to us, it's raining on my when I want to get my roof back on, right? That's when we are focusing in our direction on something that we're making that piece of sand like a boulder.
yeah,
And actually, you know, like it's just gonna just do its thing. It's gonna go, life's gonna go on. Tomorrow's another day. If you take a look back on your life now, how many times have you been in a position where you've thought something's really, really difficult, and then now you're looking back on it and think, actually, sorry, actually, it wasn't that bad. Right? Now, part of that's because we don't dwell on a lot of stuff because we're too busy creating and moving forward with life. That's our creative force that we've got inside us. We've all got it. But take a look at it now. So if you're going through something that's a little bit tricky now, that's gonna be in the rearview mirror soon. Right? So like don't sweat it too much now.
mm,
Because either way, even and this is even some of the really difficult things. Like I've had really difficult things happen to me, and I'm sure we all have. But those days still add up, those days still pass, they still go into the rearview mirror
mm,
at one time or another. So even if something feels really difficult and it's okay for you to say, Julie, I'm going through this. Like I don't want to bring this talk down even lower, but I've been through some crap, right? Some stuff. And everything passes over time. We've got this, we are part of the universe that's part of this whole energetic field that is always ready to rebalance and recalibrate us and bring us back to our baseline of actually we're okay. And then we've always got this, like, you know, like the resilience that's always going to help us come forward. We've always got our wisdom that's going to show us our next steps. We've always got our inner chakra that we just really learn to ignore a lot more than what we do, right? But when you settle yourself and ground yourself, no matter what's going on in your life, when you're listening to this right now, you're okay. In every moment that we have, when we actually just settle down for a second, if we're sitting for a second and settling, we're okay. Because if we weren't, we would be dealing with whatever needed our attention. But right now, right here, you're okay.
mm.
And that's what we've got. We've got that when we tap into our uniqueness, when we tap into this energy that we've got, when we can actually rely on, without even knowing or having to say it, but rely on the wisdom that we've got, the resilience that we've got, the creativity that we've got, the clarity that we can bring when we give ourselves that chance to settle in and settle down. That's when everything, the next step becomes really apparent, and we can let the noise disappear. We can let that settle down. Because you know what? Sometimes we create far too much noise for ourselves.
Don't know what you mean.
Never.
No, our heads can do such crazy, crazy things, can't they? And it is fascinating when, and I know something that occurred to me a good few years ago, and I still come back to it now. And when you were talking about that settling down and feeling, I really started to see that in any given moment, like you say, I'm either busy doing something, in which case I'm not caught up in my thinking and I'm just doing, you know, if you think of like a fire in a house, if your house caught on fire, you'd either just be doing what needed to be doing.
Yep. Yep.
And if you know it went quiet for a minute and then it's like, oh, what if, where are we going to live, and what if the minute that you're into that place and it's your head then that is doing something, this thing just occurred to me I've never had a house fire, it wasn't that, but in a moment like that, and it just occurred to me to ask myself the question, am I okay even here? And that question, like not listening to, I mean, first of all, my head's kind of going, no, of course you're not. No, no. And then,
Obviously not.
but if you let that, you know, if you go deeper than that and genuinely, like you say, settle into that feeling, everything is always underpinned by that deeper truth of who we are, that whatever, you know, you can call it, use any word, whatever, the universe, God, the deeper truth, the essence of the universe, the creativeness, whatever it is, but that magic, that thing, that energy, that presence underpins everything. And it always underpins everything. And there is, so you are either busy doing something and haven't got time to care or worry about that, or if you're feeling okay, or if you're not in that place, you can ground back in. And to me it feels like feeling for, is there still a chair underneath me? Yeah, more good.
So I work with a lot of people with anxiety and anxious feelings and thinking, and I often say things that sound really counterintuitive. So this is going to be another one of those. And it's the biggest indicator you have that you're safe is the rubbish feeling that you're having when you're panicking.
Yeah.
And as you've just said, if your house was on fire, or if there was you were walking out in the road and a car came, you would take action and you'd be dealing with it.
Yeah, you'd just be
Something
doing
needs your attention, you deal with it. If you are in a place, in a space where you've got the luxury, and again, I love how these words can be so inflaming for people,
yes.
but I use them deliberately,
Yeah,
because if you've got the luxury of having the time to create the meaning about the feelings that you're having, like, I'm having a heart attack, it feels horrible. You're focusing on the feelings.
yeah.
That's the biggest indicator that you've got that actually you are safe.
Mm.
Because if your house was on fire and your heart was beating out your chest, you wouldn't give a monkey's about how you are feeling. You'd be too busy dealing with it. So this is what I say. This is the biggest. It's the hardest one to get.
Yes, yeah,
Biggest
trips us up, definitely.
because we've got this like thought feeling tag team
Mm.
that interconnect and literally tag us sometimes, but try and put us down sometimes with it and convince us that this is real. But like, if you change your name to Susan Smith on there, and like I was starting to call you Susan Smith, just because I thought that, could see that and took that in as truth, doesn't mean to say your name's Susan Smith.
Mm.
So just because we've got a thought that says this feeling means this, and I can feel the feeling, if all my focus is on how I'm feeling, there's not actually the danger. There's a potential for it. I'm in the what if and land of what ifs.
Mm.
But if I'm in the land of what ifs, I'm not in the land of it's happening and I'm actually okay.
Yeah, just because there's evidence for it doesn't mean that it's true. No, it doesn't mean that it's true. And like,
And that's not to say you're not it, and I don't want anybody to think I'm dismissing it's just a thought or just a feeling, because those feelings are really powerful,
yes,
and really scary and really intense and real. But they are real because a part of your brain can't tell the difference between real or imagined. So
like,
it's sent to get the troops to save you in case it was real.
it's like watching a film, isn't it? It's like the film is, if you're watching something and something terrifying is happening on the screen and you feel like that, there's still a screen and there's still a film and there are still actors. So there is something real happening there, but it's not what it's portraying. And it's a similar thing, isn't it? When we feel that there is something real going on. So we're not saying, oh, you know, yeah, dismiss your feelings and don't, but just be clear about what it is they're representing, if you like. Because if if there was a house on fire and it was actually, you know, if my neighbour's house went on fire, I would phone the fire brigade. Whereas if I'm watching a fire on watching a house go on fire on a film on the television, I'm not going to phone the fire brigade. So it's kind of knowing what the reaction is to this. So if we're watching a scary film, we might feel really, really scared. It might be horrible, but what we are going to do and what that is going to mean is going to be different to if something horrible is truly happening. And that's kind of the difference, isn't it, with the anxiety. So it's saying, yeah, the thing is to treat it like a scary film. Stop watching it, turn the channel over, do something different. Whereas, you know, a real house on fire, yeah, phone the fire brigade, take some action here, do something. Whereas it's a different thing.
So anxiety is not realizing it's on the screen.
Yeah, yeah. But
Not
yeah,
realizing and actually just thinking that this is really happening to you. And actually some people will watch those type of films and get that full on response. And some people watch those films and think this is rubbish and bored, stupid.
yeah,
Right? If it was the feeling, if it was, and this is how we've got the personal and the amazingness about this is we all create our own meanings for things.
yeah.
And even if we've got a learned meaning for something, now for some people it might be like my friend Leslie, from when we created The Woman Who Matter, Leslie's were, it's dangerous to go out. There was a fear of her going out into crowded large places, or if we thought, you know, she could maybe go to the shop away from her. Sometimes she could go to the shop, very limited. But you know, that was her fear, her danger was, and it felt really real for her. Now, there was an imaginary line somewhere that it was safe to go on this side because she could go to the end of the gate, but she couldn't go across the street.
Yeah.
Right? And we make that meaning up about it. When we make that meaning about something, we feel it. When we feel it, that's the time to get curious about it with compassion for ourselves.
Mm.
And knowing that actually, again, checking in, right here, I'm okay, right here, right now, I'm okay. And actually, if how I'm feeling now is going to pass anyway, because it always does. You've never had an experience that hasn't passed. Ever, ever, no matter if it was the happiest you've ever been or
Yeah.
the most down and hurt and upset you've ever been, you've never had an experience that doesn't pass. Because this is part of our awesomeness. This is part of our resilience. This is part of the energy that we are made up of. We're always moving forward. We're always recovering, repairing, healing, updating. Even if we've learned something, we can update that knowledge with curiosity and compassion.
Mm.
And knowing that we're not, you know, you're not just Deborah the name. You're not just Deborah the mum, Deborah the podcast holder, Deborah the land buyer, like Deborah the house builder, Deborah the coach, Deborah the niece, nephew, aunt. They're all fractions.
Yeah,
They're
tiny.
all parts of that kaleidoscope that
Mm.
go together to make that beautiful picture that's got that many facets and that many interchangeable parts that create that many different pictures that can never be created in any other way but you. How awesome is that?
I know. I
I
know.
love that.
I love that. And what that is a part of, you know, that's
Something
each
so much
individual
bigger.
one with that. And then we are a part, we are a facet of something. Like we have so many facets, and then
Yeah.
we are a facet of something amazing. And it is, I know for me, like one of the things that I find incredibly helpful when I get stuck in my head is just actually thinking of the universe that we live in. And even like, even if you just take what had to happen for you and me to be here talking like this, if you just take one small side of it, if you just take, say, the internet, like we have to have the internet for us to be talking, how many conversations do you think had to take place for the internet to become a thing? How many people do you think were instrumental in that? How many meetings took place? How many people talked over meals? How many people fell out? How many people cried? How many people were born? How many people died? You know, in that kind of, in that time, and what happened. And that is just one tiny facet of what has created us, the universe, the Big Bang, cooling down, your mum and dad, my mum and dad, blah blah.
Yeah.
And
The
it's
generations of survivors.
yeah,
We all come from a long generation of survivors. And
yeah,
even think about the Wi-Fi. Like, how many times were the people who were creating the Wi-Fi were told it was never going to happen? What was the
yeah,
point? You're stupid. That's a stupid
yeah.
idea. You can't possibly do that.
How many doors got slammed in how many faces?
Yeah.
How many...
And yet, following their wisdom and their intuition, their creativity, knowing that this is going to come, they can do it. We can do it. Even the silly, like you say, like, look at the cup I've got here,
Yeah.
right? Coming from like clay and people like creating and making, you know, primitive pots and just then we go through all of the generations of creating all of that and how many different cogs. And if we think about this, and doesn't matter what it is, literally one little thing is part of so many other things to get that to be created. And we're that part as well. We're parts of everything. We're parts of so
Yeah.
many other people's worlds that we don't even know.
I know, you don't need to stop. And to me, what I find when I just sit and contemplate and think about that, it takes me out of my crazy mind. You know, it's kind of, it takes me to a bigger picture, because what I've really seen is when I'm caught in my thinking in that way, the details, that there's never any answers there. There's never any answers at that level, you know, where I am, what I'm, the shit that I'm shifting around, you know, like this to try and find it. It's like the answers aren't there. And yet when I just kind of stop and think, right, okay, look at my hand, you know, sometimes I just look at my hand and the power to do this, you know, this is like, how many, there are so many creatures that can't do that. And even like when you look at how clever we are with scientists, the fact that we can do that, and the fact that we can do it differently to pick up this, differently to pick up this, and not squeeze too tight and not do it too loosely so that it falls. It's like, and when I do that and start thinking that, it feels to me like that lifts my level of consciousness. And somehow then from just nowhere, something.
And not only that, when you look at this hand that you've got, this hand come from mutation of cells.
Yeah.
Right? Some cells that we were created from got mutated, you know, multiplied. Some of them went off to mutate to be your hair, some mutated to be your eyes, some your heart, some your tongue, some your teeth. All mutations of cells that are perfectly mutated for the task and for how amazing is that even?
I know.
When one thing I love to do is like when you're looking at your hand, where do you stop and where does your hand start?
That is true. I was talking to someone, Denise Holland, if you haven't watched that
Oh,
one.
Denise is lovely. I haven't spoken to her for ages.
Yeah. I was talking to her yesterday and she said something about food and digesting food. And she said, you know, everything is made of the same stuff. And she said, when we digest our food, when does it become consciousness? And it's like, when did consciousness become food? When did food become consciousness? It's like, when did consciousness become a hand? When did it? It's like, wow. And this whole continuum of where, and it's like, where does, and with us, I see it with, you know, where does that, our divinity, God, this thing, where does that stop and we start? It's like, it's,
Oh, we all just part of the same.
and that's it. It's all part of the same thing, isn't it? It actually, it doesn't really stop and start, does it? But we say, oh yeah, this is a hand, and label it and call it and think that it stops here at the end of this finger and what have you. But the truth of it is, it's all consciousness. Everything is consciousness. And it's just, yeah, I love these conversations, because when we get here, in one sense, it feels as if it means nothing, and yet just look, you know, the laughing, the level of consciousness that we come to when we look in this direction. And then it's like, oh, okay, from this elevated consciousness, we see something different, and whatever it is we need pops in some way. So,
And that's proven in so many ways from what you've just talked about when we're talking about like we can't solve the problem from the same level that we're creating it from ever, which is why when we can't find our keys or we can't, I was convinced I'd put my phone in the washing machine the other day. Everywhere else I'd looked, I couldn't find it. And I brought some clothes downstairs and put them in the washing machine. I was convinced they must have been wrapped up in the clothes. And I was like, oh, I've washed my phone and all my cards and everything are in it, right? So I was like, convinced from that place I did it. But as soon as we walk away and stop that searching, that looking, that repeating, like coming into this room and looking on this desk 30 for the 30th time, because it wasn't there the 27th or 20th or 29th time, but the 30th time it was going to be. When I leave that energy, that's when it just pops into my mind. It's in Katie's bedroom on the unit. Right, but when I let it go,
yeah,
when I give myself a chance to actually come out of those, that the reeds of thinking,
yeah.
and actually just go, you know what, I'll just wait till the washing machine's finished. And I'd stopped it and put it on the spin. I thought I'll check it after that. Then after that, when I just stopped thinking and started going to doing something else, like, really? Hey, remember you put it there before. I was like, oh, okay, there it was.
And I love what that points to, because yeah, okay, so we had a little bit of a laugh about that, about your phone. But what I love what that points to is it doesn't matter how serious the problem seems to be when we are caught up in that chatter. When once we get out of that, once we leave that temptation to keep making it on us and keep overthinking it and ruminating on it, it doesn't matter what it is, we see something. And I've really seen that in the most dire of circumstances, that magic applies, whether it is, oh sugar, I put my phone in the washing machine, or whether it is, you know, a serious something that we would take really serious, and something that is, you know, really what we would consider really bad. It's like that same magic is at play in all of these circumstances. And that is one of the things for me when I came across this, you know, understanding. That was one of the things that I was curious about. It's kind of like, yeah, cool and great, you know, there, but what about here? Is it the same?
Always about here, yeah. I had one particular one about here, and I went to Michael Neal and asked him, and I went to London to see Dickon and asked him, and I went to loads of different people, and I was like, because none of them gave me the answer that I wanted, because I was like, I said when I first came into it, I was a bit skeptical, and then actually Damien Mark Smith turned around and went, yeah, but Julie, what you're forgetting and missing out of all of this is the principles are a description for how life works. They're not a prescription to stop us feeling bad at times.
Mm.
Or to stop us experiencing the full experience that we're meant to experience in life.
Because we are here to have, we're here to have a human experience, aren't we? We're here to be alive, and which is why it's great, you know, the creations that we do. And definitely part of me building the house is, you know, we're here to create stuff. And I love what, you know, one of the reasons I reached out to you and wanted to speak to you, I love the stuff that you're creating in the world. It's fun, it looks, you know, when I watch you, when I
I
see,
want it to be, I want it to feel fun and light and interesting and like,
yeah, cool.
it's crazy.
A bit crazy, but yeah, you know, but that's I think we're very similar in energy on that. I liked it. But it is absolutely. And I know sometimes when we think, you know, things happen that we really don't want to happen, but to have a full-on human experience, we've got to have that. You know, you can't have a fairground ride that doesn't move anywhere. You know, if you sat on a fairground ride and it kind of didn't go up in the air, or it didn't spin you around, or it didn't whatever, it'd be like, you'd be pretty bored, wouldn't you? A roller coaster that just sort of did this. And it's like, we're here to have that experience, but there is something underpinning it that keeps us, that we can continue to come back to feel that connectedness, that love, that okayness. So
And knowing that even when we are in the midst of the reads, and I've certainly been there, and I know you've been there, we are when we literally can't. And I've had experiences that have led me to not wanting to be around people when I'm with people, not wanting to be by myself when I'm by myself, not wanting to be inside when I was inside, not wanting to be outside when I was not knowing what, you know, just so in a world of hurt that I couldn't see or actually have the capacity to give a damn about anybody else in that time.
mm,
And even in that time, I was still okay.
yeah.
Having an experience I really didn't want to have. Having all the feels that actually were appropriate for the experience I was having. And that's something else. So often when we can think, we don't ever have a feeling that we are not meant or have been created to feel.
Yeah.
And every feeling that we have is appropriate for the thinking and the experience and the meaning making that we are creating our experience from in that moment. And it's always a back rear view mirror. We always move forward because the energy, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, is always keeping us moving forward. Is we've always got the rear view mirror to look back in and everything. We even in the worst of my times, I didn't feel it then. You turn around and tell me I was okay then, I'd probably try to go bugger off, maybe it's a bit worse. But looking back through the rear view mirror, I can see that everything I was feeling was perfectly flippant to be expected. considering what had happened and considering how my life was at that moment in time and circumstances, and I wasn't, my circumstances wasn't my feelings, even though it felt like it was all encompassing, I was still so much more.
Yeah.
And actually my resilience was still getting me through every goddamn day. Right?
Yeah.
And no matter what you're going through now, whether it's something great you want to create and you're stopping yourself, just do it. Because, like, why not, right? Have some fun with it. What's the worst that can happen? It doesn't go to plan. It's definite no if you don't do it. Give it. And if something's difficult at this moment in time, if you can't help yourself out of the weeds at this moment, go and contact Deborah. Right? Have a chat with somebody that's actually going to help you lift and actually see a bigger perspective, because there's always more to see. Sometimes we're not ready to see it. Sometimes we are. Sometimes we don't know who to reach out to. Sometimes we can't be bothered because we're just feeling rubbish and we want to wallow in it. All of that's okay. But remember, we always get to choose and we're always moving forward. Every day we're moving forward, right? And we are so much more than any experience we're ever having.
Thank you. There's something really beautiful in there that you said when you said about the appropriateness of whatever it is we're feeling, from, you know, what we're thinking, what's happening, what's going on. And also that when you pointed out that this is what I heard in it, there's nothing outside of consciousness. There's nothing outside of, you know, there's one thing here, and there is a way in which this one thing is safe, however bad and whatever it looks like. There is an inherent, you know, even when we look at your friend, you know, she's gone back to the allness of everything. She's gone back to the oneness. You know, there is an inherent safeness here, and nothing can happen outside of that.
Energy can't be destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's gone.
It's just changed, and it's like, it's so yeah. Thank you. That was, oh my gosh, there was some amazingness in there. So if anyone does want to know more about you, I will put things underneath this video, but if they happen to be watching it somewhere where there isn't anything, or they don't see it or whatever, obviously they can reach out to me to find out who you are. But how can people, you know, what's a good way for people to find out more about you, contact you?
I'm around on Facebook. I do work with men as well as, but primarily women, because women tend to find me. Women Who Matter. If you take a look at that group, you will find that group.
Highly recommend that. Yeah, definitely check that out.
And also, I do have a website, juliebrown.info. If you want to take a look at that, you can find me there as well, with my email details and contact details if you want to contact me.
Oh,
so much for this. It's been absolutely.
Thank you so much. That was lovely.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, totally appreciate you.
Everything that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Good. It's lovely, and it's so lovely to connect in this way. So thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.